All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Inside Pages, the first edition for 2024. Let me use this opportunity to wish our cherished viewers a happy new year. It is our hope and prayer that 2024 is better, is bigger, is more fulfilling, and is more successful. And I'm sure that's the wish that almost all of you who are watching us would have for yourself and your family and everybody else who is connected to you one way or the other. Now, Inside Pages obviously will be bigger, will be better, 2024, inshallah. My name is Audu Moro. It's a pleasure coming your way. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. This is the first edition. Before I proceed, let me just say a happy birthday to our managing director. That's managing director of Ignite Media Group. That's Dr. Randy Abe. Today, he actually climbed to the 5th floor. He's 50 years today, Dr. Randy Abe. He's a big brother. Yeah, never mind the fact that he's my MD, but he's also like a big brother to me. And he's somebody who I've admired for many years. And we want to say a happy birthday to you, Dr. Randy Abe. I'm told there's quite a number of things that have been, well, I don't have the permission to say it, but there's a lot of things have been lined up to celebrate this big day. But anyway, so happy birthday to you, Dr. Randy Abe, and we wish you all the best. You're a great man, you're a wonderful person. Keep up the good job, and God will continue to bless you. So on Inside Pages this morning, it's I know we're used to this. I mean, usually when we get into the new year, we like to look at, we want to go back memory lane and look at some of the big stories that made the headlines. Some of them exciting, some of them not exciting, some of them broke our hearts, and so on and so forth. And so this morning I've got a panel that will be looking back into 2023, right from the desecration of the presidency by the American superstar, that's a Meek Mill, to 89 MPs who said they wanted the finance minister out because the finance minister was making their work difficult as MPs, right up through the president actually sitting down with these MPs and telling them to give them time for the finance minister to read the media budget and so on and so forth. Nothing has come out of that. We also saw that big one from Professor Frimpong Boateng on the Galamsey, a fight against Galamsey, and some of the exposés that Professor Frimpong Boateng has come up with. We know what has happened with that report as well. We also know what has happened with the Cecilia Dapa matter. She's kept millions of cedis in her house. Apparently, she actually had a bank in her house. Wow, we didn't know that. But not to talk about the thefts itself that happened in her house. We don't know what has happened to the kids who are all those house helps who apparently stole her money. That's with the Cecilia Dapa matter. We also know about the military brutalities that happened somewhere in Ashaiman and how till today nobody's been held accountable. We also know about the how do you call it? The Akosombo spillage, which has devastated and decimated some parts of the Volta region, and so on and so on. So when I come back, there's quite a tall list of issues that we can recall. If you have some that you think that we should be looking at, please feel free to send us a message. 0249 155 646. 0249 155 646. So I'll walk you through the list when I come back. This is Inside Pages. My name is Audu Moro. Stay tuned in. Welcome back. Oh my word, 2023, what a year 2023 has been. Right from the showdown, which was promised by Ken Ejapon, to all of the things that have happened. Alan Tremantin going independent and forming the Yellow Butterfly Movement. Ken Ejapon failed to give a showdown. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is the first Muslim of northern origin to become historically the leader and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. To the Akosombo spillage, I talked about Meek Mill, who desecrated the presidency. I've also talked about Akosombo Dam spillage. We talked about the 89 MPs who actually apparently wanted the finance minister out because the finance minister on Monyom, the finance minister is not doing well, according to them. We also know about the Shaman brutalities, where several persons were injured, some people killed. We still don't know what has happened to that. We also know about yes, Charles Dubois, who was actually sacked for engaging in what appears to be an act of indiscretion. I wouldn't want to say corruption is an act of indiscretion. The president has actually made him to lose his job. We also know about the IGP Dampari and the secret tape. The Bank of Ghana losses, 250 million, which is actually be earmarked for the headquarters. The minority is unhappy, and some other civil society organizations. Yes, you also remember the Occupy Jubilee House. Well, some of them want to term it the Occupy Julobi, well, whatever it is. But yeah, there's quite a number of them. And then Cecilia Dapa, and so on and so forth. The kidney crisis. Kolebu, several persons who unable to pay afford the bill to be able to how do you call it undergo what's the name of what is it again? What people have kidney crisis, I've forgotten what the name is, but dialysis, that's the word I was looking for. Yes, and all the brouhaha that came, but actually one person who died, a very young lady who died because she couldn't afford the high fees that were being charged, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a number of them. So what I intend to do this morning is that my panel will be allowed to choose two favorite topics of their own and tell us why they think that is for them is the biggest stories. But we'll do it quite briefly because some of us would like to have a take, would have to share our opinion, would like to have a say on those topics, and then we'll go around and get them to choose the second and third topic, possibly depending on how much time we have. We'll also be joined via Zoom by two personalities who would also be expressing their opinion on this matter. But let me first of all introduce those who are here, and then I'll go to those who will be joining us on Zoom. Kafuide is the host of the GTV Breakfast Show. It's actually his first time here at Metro TV. He's more than happy to be here. I can speak for him. Good morning, boss.
Happy New Year, Moro.
Happy New Year.
I love your home.
You're really?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's massive.
It's nice.
It's massive.
I like it.
It's massive. It's yeah. I agree with you. Anyway, but anyway, Happy New Year.
Same to you, man.
I'll come back to you to ask you how 2023 has been for you. I'll come back to you on that. But I also have Gordon Asarabediako. Hey, he's a fantastic chap, big man. He does a lot of things, but he says just say I'm the managing editor of the ABC newspaper, but he does quite a number of things as far as his media work is concerned. Wonderful chap. His John is here. It's a very good friend of mine. Gordon, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Many happy returns.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. You usually don't like to do. Gordon is usually. He's usually on the account platforms, the tree-speaking platforms. Right. Meanwhile, he can actually do both. But for some reason, he's always been very unfair to the English-speaking platform.
Glad you dragged him.
So we've dragged him. Yeah. That Charlie be fair. When you do this one small, then you do this one small.
No, but I think it should also be fair to say that he came with his concoction. and I'm also so glad to be on the same platform.
Right.
With Kafuide.
Great.
You understand? And today is the birthday of Dr. Randy Abbey.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm going to put it down in my diary. Those days,
right.
I was listening to Randy on Choice FM.
Choice FM, yeah.
And I remember there was a day Randy made a certain argument. Somebody said,
right.
"Oh, Randy won't go school, Randy won't go school. Stop listening."
Can you imagine?
Now he's a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor.
What are you going to say?
Yeah, I know.
You understand?
I know.
And Kafuide, a man, you now lecture, right?
Right.
Yes, I teach.
Yes, you now teach. Yeah. So today, I wish my mom was watching me, that I'm in the company of Kafuide. And then my brother as well.
I wish my mom was watching me too, because today would have been her 76th birthday.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
76th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My mom is going to be 78.
She passed in 2013.
2013.
Yes,
oh.
today would have been her birthday.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, may the soul continue to rest.
Amen.
Yeah.
Let me also say that Kojo Yang will be joining us. Kojo Yang Singh is the host of the Super Morning Show on Joy FM. He'll be here in the next few minutes. But also joining us via Zoom is Shamima Muslim. She is the founder and convener of the Alliance for Women in Media Africa. She'll also be joining us via Zoom. And also Dr. Osai Kwapon. I don't know that Doc has joined us already. Dr. Osai Kwapon is a CDD fellow, of course, CDD Ghana branch, so CDD fellow, and also a political scientist. Doc, are you with us? Hello, Doc. Okay, Doc hasn't joined us, yes. Okay, so the two of them were joining us to review 2023. So Harrison is actually the producer of the show. Harrison, if you have some tips in 2023, let's just refresh our memories just briefly before we come back and get my resource persons to, choose their own favorite topics and tell us why it's their favorite topic and how they believe things will turn out or play out going forward when talking 2024.
Justice must be done. Yes, whatever it is, they need to find the one who did that, and so that at least we all be happy.
And we all love the way he is, the high spirit he has, the passion he has for music. That's the thing I can say.
There should be justice for Imoro, because I don't know what the guy did. I don't know what he did wrong. A very good boy who was very innocent. I don't know anything for my boy.
To these friends and sympathizers, perpetrators should not be left off the hook, but be investigated, arrested, and brought to book. They demand justice. It was a serene and sad atmosphere right from the 37 military mosques when the remains of the late soldier Sharif Imoro was presented for dua, an Islamic prayer for the dead before burial. So right behind me is the body of Sharif Imoro being brought to the military cemetery for the final funeral rite and also the burial of the body. Now you can see that the military band is actually playing the final songs to say bye-bye to their fallen officer. He is a trumpeter and also one of the most respectful officers that the command has had, and so his burial and his death has really hit them so bad. And as you can see, his lifeless body actually laid to the stretcher at the very moment, as you can see. The tears could not cease from the eyes of the sympathizers who followed up from the mosque to the military cemetery.
About him being a Muslim, he joined us Christian to worship at the Catholic Church in Augustine. He's one humble guy who will not retaliate to anything. He was ready to learn, very calm and very happy with all.
Want justice, and then please, the reportage about some of your stations is bad, so we beg you.
Are you going to listen to us? Because clearly your government has failed us. You don't need to have any request. I've sat down with you before. And nothing came out. So now we're here. Are you going to listen to us as your citizens? Are you going to listen to us? You're going somewhere, so you still don't have time for your citizens. You're telling us that you're going somewhere.
You are literally leaving.
Huh?
You are leaving. Hello, sir.
You should be ashamed
Hello,
of yourself,
sir.
though.
Don't sit down. Sir, talk to us. Sir, we came to meet you. Sir, talk to us before you leave. This is not right. We came to meet you. This is not right. We came to meet you. Hello, sir.
Dialysis is a life-saving medical procedure that is essential for patients suffering from kidney-related illnesses. Over the years, Ghana has made significant strides in improving access to medical care, but there remains a persistent gap in addressing financial constraints faced by kidney patients. The high cost of dialysis treatments has placed a heavy burden on individuals and families, often leading to financial distress. Speaking at the 2023 annual general meeting of West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science in Accra, the chemical pathologist Professor George Ewuku Asare said government needs a legal framework for kidney transplanting and special insurance for dialysis treatment.
There must be an insurance scheme to deal with it. I think the technocrats and the experts can sit down to examine which of the two systems will give us the best outcome. Whether the National Health Insurance Scheme whether a specialized health insurance scheme, there must be the coverage by some form of insurance. There is a need for regulations to be put in place as early as possible.
The relevance of specialist training in medical laboratory science is key in diagnosis and treatment of kidney-related diseases. Contributing to the debate, Acting Director of Technical Coordination Directorate of Health Ministry, Dr. Bafu Ewa, said there is urgent need for specialist training to improve health outcomes.
Government over the years have been supporting specialist training, and if we can now, we have College of Physicians and Surgeons, College of Pharmacy, College of Nursing, then a College of Medical Laboratory Science. So you see, specialist training is growing and becoming wider and more decentralized.
Meanwhile, former president of Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists, Dr. Ignatius Awini Bunu, says a market survey is being conducted to improve specialist training in the medical laboratory sector.
In the healthcare, we look at team approach to work. So this kind of analysis is supposed to look at the contribution of each team member to the provision of a particular level of care. So once it comes to specialist care, we require specialist services, especially from the laboratory. That is a fulcrum of diagnosis, provision of data that informs diagnosis, prognosis of disease situations, and also for the purpose of public health interventions.
Deputy Health Minister Mahama Seni, in a speech read on his behalf, said government is committed to partnering West African Postgraduate College of Medical.
Finally, the long-awaited silence from the camp of Alan Kojo Kyerematen has been broken.
The NPP, as it exists now.
Well, in your shot was Alan Kyerematen of the Butterfly Movement, or the Yellow Movement, actually announcing officially to the world that he is forming a movement and this is what he intends to do with the movement. We would have some time to talk about that issue. But for now, let me say that Kojo Yangsing of Joy FM, the Super Morning Show, is just joined us this morning to help us with this, what promises to be a very interesting and a very, very exhilarating conversation about 2023. I have described already 2023 to be a very eventful year. It hasn't been that easy. I'm sure for many of you, you can actually relate, or you can actually you can agree with me that it hasn't been that easy, 2023. Kojo, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
It's great
How
to
are you,
be
my
here.
brother?
This is very nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Same
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Let me also welcome Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, who is a CDD fellow and also a political scientist. Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, good morning. It's good to have you. Happy New Year.
Good morning to you too.
Right. How have you been?
So far, so good. I'm doing well.
How did you cross over into 2024?
I think I slept most of it and then woke up and then I watched the ball drop in New York City.
Right. That's how you chose to cross into 2024. That's how did you cross into 2024, Kojo?
Exactly like
You
that.
slept?
I was fast asleep.
Really? No 31st night stuff?
Best way to do it, you know.
Really?
Yes, the best way to go through surgery is under anesthesia.
I like that. I like how he captures it. Kafu, how did you do yours? How did you cross over 2024?
I was counting down from 59 to 0.
Really?
Somewhere in the eastern region.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
But you went to church?
I didn't go to church.
You didn't go to church?
No.
Somewhere in the eastern region?
I was working.
You're cooling off?
Yeah.
Oh, you were working?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Private capacity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was emceeing a countdown into the 2023.
Oh, wow.
New Year.
Wow.
So I was awake, wide awake. You guys were asleep.
Boarding is a minister, so I'm surprised if he tells me.
Oh, he is?
No, you don't get any option for day church.
I slept.
You slept?
Yes.
Hey!
I actually straight off my phone.
Really?
Yes, I woke up around 6:45 a.m.
But it means you've shortchanged your congregation because they would have been, they were expecting to see you around.
I bet you. Don't take me there yet.
The journalist turning a political propagandist.
Yes.
Anyway, so good to see you. I mean, listen, we're excited, we're happy because we're live. I mean, not many people were able to cross, well, some people were not able to cross this 2024. So, yeah, they're giggling here and there. It's just because, just for you to know that we're excited and happy to be alive in 2024. Shamima Muslim will be joining us as well. She's actually getting ready to join us via Zoom so she can join the conversation. So, how are we going to do this? I think as we discussed, each and every one of you would have the opportunity to choose 2 favorite topics. And then we can, of course, summarily, we talk about it. And then if there's time, we can take on a 3rd topic. First of all, how would you, in one word, Kafui, describe 2023 for you, built in your personal capacity, as a family man, blah, 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 and also as an employee of GTV? If you put all that together, how would you describe 2023?
Eventful.
Eventful.
Yes.
Okay.
Ups and downs. But the way I like to say things is, can I put a positive spin on something?
Right.
And then try and find something positive out of it.
Right.
It was eventful.
Okay.
A lot of people went through a lot. yeah. I mean, pocket-wise.
Yeah. Relationship-wise.
Yes. But my 2 top stories would have to be issues around Galamsey.
Okay.
And the Mepe issues, the flooding of the lower waterfalls. That whole
spillage.
Drama.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 things.
Where were you? I mean, what was your reaction when you first heard about the spillage?
So
what was the first thing that came to mind?
I remember clearly we were on air on Friday. I mean, we heard about, I didn't know how serious it was until we were on air, and one of my colleagues, Daryl Alantego, went there and was taking a tour of Mefe, and it was like, this is Venice.
Okay.
Because roads had become canals.
Really?
And I do remember talking to people who said they saw the news, but they didn't even connect it to Ghana. But they were thinking, what kind of a flooded, what kind of a waterway community is this?
Yeah.
And then they're looking at it and they're seeing metal structures, which are roofs.
Yeah.
Which means the water is like 5-6 meters high.
Yeah. It was like a movie, isn't it?
It was just shocking, And I had the opportunity to go to Mefe and Bato and other areas about 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
To actually see it is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Then I remember even visiting at night to one of the camps and just walking into a room packed with people. It's a classroom that is packed with people. The heat is suffocating.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes are raging. Dark. Rubbish is now piling outside because waste disposal was a problem. Place started to smell. It was just unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I visited a farm. This is around the Sokokopa area, Flow Cell. Right. And he said in a couple of hours, he recorded maybe 6 million CDs worth of damage.
Yeah.
Because the water basically rose a couple of meters, overwhelmed his farm, through all his tilapia cages, because it's a fish farmer. He said he saw them floating all the way to the Sokokopa Bridge.
Yeah.
That's his investment just going away. Eesh. And the man was still on his feet, standing, smiling.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And that whole lower Volta basin thing was just too much.
Yeah.
It was too much.
I mean, when you look back, Kafui, where do you think that the state actors got it wrong? So we're talking about the Volta River Authority, we're talking about NADMO, and to some extent, with one ministry, that should be the energy ministry.
Yes.
When you look back, do you think this could have been better handled? And where do you think we fell short?
See, I spoke to the people and they said, I put it to them that you were warned about this.
Okay.
The state authorities said they did simulations.
Yeah.
So you had an idea. And the general feeling I had was that, no, they didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
And they were not given enough time. And if there were shelters that were available, how come they were not warned so that they moved to higher ground or drier ground before the water comes coursing through their communities?
Yeah.
So they feel that the whole thing was not well managed.
It was irresponsibly handled.
Yes, they had very harsh words to say.
Yeah.
They laid the blame squarely at the doorstep of the Volta River Authority. You know, and they've talked about previous times when spillages has happened, but this was almost like apocalyptic.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
It's apocalyptic.
Yep.
That's how I would describe it.
Yep.
I mean, I was looking at watermarks which were like as high as this studio. You know, especially when they stopped the spillage,
Yeah.
and we went there again.
Yeah.
We went through these communities, these camps.
Yeah.
It's mad. I went to somebody's house and I was seeing everything from wet Bibles
Yeah.
to there's one house I went to and they had buried their two relatives inside the house. The graves had been overwhelmed. Cemeteries had been flooded out.
Wow.
So
Incredulous.
I think there are health issues that we're
Yeah.
not really even thinking about in that whole part of
Yeah.
the lower Waterballs basin
Yeah.
area. And somebody has to be held responsible, really.
You think so?
Honestly speaking.
Someone must pay a price for this.
Yes. In any other country, they would.
Yeah.
You would hold people responsible.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be held responsible. It's not about giving them rice and gari and
then life goes on.
Oh, sorry, and life goes on.
Yeah.
People's education has been disrupted. Children were just walking around confused. Snake bites were a big deal because when the water levels rose, the snakes rushed for dry ground. They went to look for their own refuge.
Oh, okay.
So people were turning up with snake bites.
Wow.
Yes. I remember there was one little boy who had been bitten, and they couldn't even afford to take him away. Yeah, so he was just lying down there, and he's.
I'll ask you to come back.
Yes.
In fact, I'll allow you to come back to your second topic. Let me ask you this, Kojo. Do you think a state of emergency should have been declared? Remember the minority called for it, but government didn't really think it was a good idea. When you look back, do you think that we should have declared a state of emergency?
You know, it's interesting. That whole process of declaring a state of emergency, it's an official process that is done for a reason.
Right.
It's not because someone has to sit at his desk and decide whether what is happening in Mepe and surrounding areas is an emergency or not.
True.
No, it was an emergency.
Right.
We all saw the evidence.
Right.
So it wasn't about someone making a decision and signing
At his whim.
to determine that
Yeah.
those people have lost livelihoods and they've lost, they've lost heirlooms and tradition and culture that they will never get back, ever. No, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
The state of emergency declaration triggers something.
True.
It creates a certain reaction around the world.
Right.
That reaction never came.
Right.
Because nobody declared it.
Right.
So what that means is that as a nation, a situation that we had poorly planned for, I'm sure we all remember how many times VRE said to us that they anticipated this.
True.
That they went around into these communities and they told them about it. They had a simulation and they determined that this will happen. So, right? So if you anticipated all this, yet it still happened, you are incompetent.
Right.
But if you knew it would happen and then you still sat back and it happened just as you anticipated and you couldn't mitigate any of it, I mean, should you even wait for someone to come and sack you?
No, but they'll tell you this is the best they could do under the circumstances.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Okay,
It's the
let's
best they could do.
analyze that.
Right.
So you knew that these villages would be flooded up to their roofs.
Yeah.
And what you did, the best you could do, is to say that when it happens, go into that school. Mothers, grandmothers, fathers, families from different places, strangers, stay together in classrooms with no toilet facilities, with no healthcare. This was the best they could do.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, you can't make that argument to anyone.
Right.
That is what. If that was the best they could do, then by God, they should have declared a state of emergency. So that others will come in and help.
Right. I get it.
Because if clearly you can't handle it, then get help. Because look, those are people's family members. A friend of mine I went to university with, Angie, her mother has run a guest house somewhere near Mepe for some time now.
Right.
This guest house has been in the family for years. People come to the town and that's where they stay. Everybody knows it. Everybody's familiar with this place. And that's their family's livelihood.
Right.
It's all been washed away. It's all been washed away. Now, you tell me, if this were, and by the way, Angie's mother has a master's degree.
Yeah.
If VRE had told her that this will happen to your hotel that you have been running for decades, would she have just sat there for it to happen?
Right.
And woken up one day to see that everything she owns is floating? Is that what you would have done?
Right.
So when they come and make these arguments that they told them they were warned, how believable is it?
Right.
And in fact, what was the nature of this warning? That when it happens, enter that classroom. That was it. That was the plan.
Right.
They talked about shelters, higher ground. Where is it? Where is it? Where are the elements of this plan that they claim they made? This simulation that demonstrated that people's entire towns will be flooded. This simulation.
Right.
Who did they communicate it to? How is it that it was only after the actual flooding happened that the nation got to know that they claim they knew it was coming? I'm sorry, but a state of emergency
should have been declared.
Is what they should have done, knowing that they had failed.
Right.
Knowing that they had not provided for the livelihood of these people. That is what they should have done.
Right.
Unfortunately, what we saw rather was a politicization. I mean, Ghana can politicize any, Jesus Christ. They can turn anything into politics.
True.
And unfortunately, it's not just you and me. We don't do it for our entertainment.
Right.
Because our leaders are signaling it. From the very top, they are signaling that to them, everything is politics. Look at what the president said when he went there. I've got to tell you, I've been disappointed by African leaders before.
Right.
But on that day, I was gobsmacked. I didn't know what to say about it on my own show. I didn't even know how to react to the president going to these people. First of all, after weeks, and he was out of the country when it originally happened. He was somewhere. After weeks of not even saying a word, not even issuing a statement, he then turns up and says that you people, if it was based on how you vote, I wouldn't be here. Come on.
Because if you do a content analysis of what the president said, and if you also want to contextualize it, that is not to justify what the president has said, but I'm just asking if doesn't the fact that there was some commentary prior to the president's comments that the president wasn't going to treat this Akosombo Dam spillage with a sense of urgency which he would have attached if it were some other region. And so the president then goes there and says, well, Matete say, I've heard people say that I won't even be here. But if it were about votes, then I probably don't even have any business here. So the president perhaps felt that he ought to, or he needed to respond to persons who were trying to politicize the government's approach to dealing with this in terms of the sense of urgency that they would have expected them to attach to the Akosombo Dam spillage.
I have no doubt that
you still don't think that you still don't think that perhaps based on that context that I've just set, you would then begin to understand where the president was coming from.
I have no doubt that the president felt he had to respond.
Okay.
That's where he went wrong. By feeling he has to. Is he a president or a foot soldier?
Okay.
First of all, the only reason why he felt a need to say something about it is because he had delayed in turning up there. This was weeks after the fact. He had delayed.
Never mind, the vice president was there earlier.
Please, the vice president was there earlier. We're not talking about what the vice president said today, are we?
True.
We're talking about what the president said. He had delayed. He turned up weeks later and felt that this should be part of what he has to say to them.
Right.
That is where he made a mistake. You are the president. You're not a foot soldier. You're not a panel discussion. Do you see what I'm saying?
So we should just accept it. He goofed. Big time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And he goofed to
Big
the
time.
wrong people at the wrong time.
Let me come to Godin, because I said I'd give you another opportunity to have a bite of this. But Godin, I'll ask you this question, which is, 1, should a state of emergency have been declared? 2, do you think that somebody should be held fully liable or responsible for what happened? Should the president have, for instance, commissioned some inquiry in order to get to the bottom of what exactly happened? And then we can then hold somebody accountable for this. That's where I want you to come from. I know you have other reactions or opinions expressed on what my colleagues have said, but if you can do this before you come to what, or you want a preliminary.
No. I just
you deal with some of the. Okay, that's
fine. I was there myself.
Okay.
In the company of managing director of State Housing Company.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, and
I saw
then PMMC managing director. Very devastating.
Right.
And water rising to rooftop levels, places which hitherto was just land, but now turned to river. So, but my issue has to do with the simulation exercise that VRE
They claim they did, right.
In fact, there's evidence. I actually went to VRE. I saw evidence, pictorial evidence, video evidence of that simulation exercise. 30 minutes ago, I was here. A friend of mine is supposed to have, he has a hospital appointment. I know how he sleeps. On my way coming, I called him just to wake him up. When I was sitting down, he has something to me like, let me call him again. When I called, he didn't respond. So I called his brother to go and wake him up. When his brother went to his room, he was in the washroom. Why did I call again? I wanted to be sure that the guy was up.
Yeah.
The simulation exercise that they did for me wasn't enough. They did it.
Okay.
The spillage didn't happen in a day.
Right.
The devastation didn't occur in a day. The spillage happened 2 weeks before the devastation.
Right.
So when VRE and other state institutions realized that even though we had done the simulation exercise and the water level was rising beyond our expectation, what did they do at that particular moment? That's where my issue is.
Okay.
For the simulation exercise, they can get away with it that, oh, we did it. But when you realize that the simulation exercise wasn't resolving anything, what did they do? Another issue is with the state of emergency. Honestly speaking, I don't know what it entails when a state of emergency is declared. Because when I went there, and I'm sure you saw military people there, NADMO people there, and I'm sure when a state of emergency is declared, all these institutions will be there. Maybe it may go a notch higher than how the government responded.
Sure.
Probably on hindsight, they should have declared the state of emergency. I don't really know why they didn't declare, but as Kojo said, this one, you don't need a lecturer to mark you that, oh, you've passed. Because you yourself, you know that the place, they were in a state of emergency.
Maybe NDC shouldn't have said it.
Probably.
So that it's not seen as if you are responding to
Probably.
NDC. Because they just kept quiet for maybe 2-3 days.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we've gotten to in Ghana now.
Yes.
You know?
True.
I went there. Look, Moro, I saw a corn mill operating on the street, okay? Free of charge, of course. Why is it free of charge? People don't have money.
Right.
Somebody who has a farmland somewhere, who 2 weeks ago was a rich woman, all of a sudden has been turned into a pauper and had to take his maize or whatever to the corn mill to a mill for him or her free of charge because she or he cannot afford. My worry again is that when I went there, I saw so many challenges. The MCE or DCE, there was lack of coordination between the MCE and then the member of parliament.
Wow.
That's Okudzeto
Ablakwa.
Yes, to the extent that when people were supposed to deliver goods to them, items, where should I go? Should I go to the MP's place or should I go to the MC's place?
The chief's place.
Or the chief's place. So there was lack of coordination.
But whose job was it?
No, for me, they were supposed to coordinate.
The people who foresaw it.
You see, they should have coordinated it. Because can somebody tell me that the member of parliament for the area is not resourceful enough? He's got friends. He's got relatives. I mean, people love him. And they want to support. So when they are bringing their items, where should they take it to? Should he also go and set up his camp? In fact, he also set up his camp somewhere. And we have to cross with a boat. Which I did. When I went there, I was marveled. I said, wow. Okay? And so there was that lack of coordination. Of course, politics was at play. You understand? Politics was at play. So I think on hindsight, VRE could have done much better when they realized that despite the simulation exercise or whatever, the water level was rising beyond the expectation. And people were running for for cover.
Yeah.
But one thing baffles me. Upon all the level of devastation, we didn't lose a life.
Right.
I don't know what happened.
The child died from a snake bite.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And you see, when I saw people, mothers, washing and then drying their clothes on grasses, on flowers.
Yeah.
And I said, we can't live like this. Yeah. You can't. All of a sudden, go and sleep in a classroom with a stranger. A class that can accommodate about 60 people with a stranger. You can't. I mean, you cannot do it.
Okay. Let's move on to our second story. Kafi, to be fair to you, you've talked about the first story.
Yeah, so let them go talk about their big stories.
Before you come to your second story.
Yeah.
So everybody should have a take.
Yes.
One each. Okay. That's very magnanimous of you, actually.
We don't get time. Time no day.
Now go there. So let me say that Shamima Muslim, who is the convener and founder, the founder and convener of Alliance for Women in Media Africa, she's also joined us. Sham, good morning and good to have you.
Good morning.
Okay. All right. I thought Sham was on. Oh, Shams, good morning. Good to have you.
I am on.
Right. How are you?
Good to have you. Good to be here. I'm very well.
Right.
And
right.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year. Many happy returns. Right. All right. So let me come to Doc. Is there something you want to say about this? The Akosombo Dam spillage, looking back, what we could have done better, just briefly, so that I'd ask you so that I'll come back to you on some of the issues. If you don't want to talk about it, so that's fine. Hello, Dr. John Osai-Kwapo.
Yes, Moro.
Yeah, you have any take on the Akosombo Dam spillage? Just a brief one.
I think I share the sentiments of the what everybody else has said in terms of particularly the importance of declaring a state of emergency, because everything that we saw that point to the fact that there was, it was really a state of emergency. I mean, I know the energy minister and I think the head of VRA did go to Parliament to brief them and give them an update, but I think I don't know what has happened, after that, but it really was, a state of emergency and an unfortunate situation that I think a lot more should have. I mean, I know the efforts of, private individuals and then, the work of MP Ablakwa to get all kinds of support for the area. But I think more could have been done and some accountability would also help.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Doc. So I'll allow my other resource persons, my other panel members, to also give us their take on at least one, because everybody's entitled to two, at least for now, but for them to give us one out of the two, what they believe are the big story for 2023. I'll start with Kojo Youngson, and then Shamima Muslim will come in, and then the rest will also give us their take. Kojo, so for you, Kafi mentioned the Akosombo Dam spillage. What for you would you say was the biggest story of 2023?
So we're going to go with one.
Yeah.
The two that I have in mind were first the Cecilia Dapaah saga.
Okay. Yeah. Dapaah Gate.
Yes.
Dapaah Gate. Yeah.
The second one would be Parliament's abortive attempt to remove the finance minister.
Right.
It's hard to choose. I think I'll go with I'll go with Dapaah Gate. I think that was one that really resonated with a lot of Ghanaians. Right. I mean, no need to recount the details, but I think this was something that accidentally became a story. Somebody was robbed.
Right.
And in the course of the case, it became apparent that this person, a minister appointed by the president, the amount of money that she was reporting to have been stolen from her were shocking. Now, not just shocking because of who she is. That's one part of it.
Right.
Right? Because, I mean, when you look at her career history, which is documented. I mean, it's not a secret.
Right from the days of Kufuor.
Yes. From the days of former President Kufuor till date. Yeah. Every job she has had is there. It's on her, LinkedIn profile. She hasn't kept any of her jobs secret. She hasn't been a secret tycoon somewhere. Whatever she's done is known, right? So to hear those amounts being announced and putting them next to, you know, the person we know her to be and the job we know her to have been doing thus far, I'm sorry, but the maths wasn't mathing, right? That was the first part of it.
Okay.
The second part of it was that even if this had been Bill Gates or Elon Musk, would they keep that amount of money in cash in their home?
Right.
So you see, there were two levels to the irregularity of the situation.
So basically, what was she thinking?
I would love to ask her that. Yeah. If she would grant me an interview, that might be my first question. Yeah. You know, were you thinking? Not even what were you thinking.
Yeah, were you thinking?
Because also the detail of how this theft got discovered was shocking. So apparently she has more than one home, which is actually normal. I think many of these ministers have official residences, then they have their own homes and so forth.
Yeah.
So this was one of the two. I'm not even sure whether it was the official or the other one.
Yeah.
But it was a home in Abelempi, where they don't spend a lot of time. Now you let me ask you, Moro, how rich would you have to be to have over $1 million, millions of cedis, and be comfortable for it to be away from you in cash in a home you don't actually spend time in?
Right.
Where the level of security is breachable by your house help.
Right. I must be fabulously rich.
I mean,
I must be fabulous.
Again,
rich.
Let's bring back Elon Musk. Would
Right.
even he do that?
Right.
You know, so I think those were the aspects of it that made everybody curious to know more.
Yeah.
Then the handling of it became an issue. The special prosecutor waded in, and I think even he will admit that that was not his best work. I mean, some of the reasons why his motions got dismissed from court beggar belief, particularly thinking of the fact that the office is run by someone of the caliber of Kisia Jabin. I mean, do you know how many of our successful criminal lawyers were taught by Kisia Jabin?
Yeah.
Like those who are dazzling us with their records today. If you knew how many of them.
Which is to suggest that nobody can question his competence.
Absolutely not.
He knows his job. He knows his law.
So you have to wonder, how do you get tripped up on such fundamental procedural issues?
Yeah.
You know, so I think even he will admit that, especially the beginning of the Cecilia Dapa case, was not his finest hour.
Right.
Then, of course, the president had a role, you know, in this. And again, it was a role that allowed criticism, you know, of his choice of words.
Yeah.
You know, in receiving, I've seen letters where resignations are being accepted.
Yeah.
I've seen letters. And usually it's to the extent of, with regret, we accept your resignation.
Yep.
We wish you all the best.
Yep.
You know, there might be some, you know, nod to some achievements that you made during the time you were in that role.
Yeah.
And then an amicable parting. Yeah, I mean, this is what we see.
Right.
But somebody writing that letter, and I want to give the president the benefit of the doubt. Who knows? Maybe he didn't pen it himself. But somebody writing that letter decided that I am actually going to put in a statement here that shows that I don't think she's done anything wrong. Like, why does the president even feel that it is his place to state that someone who is being investigated has done nothing wrong?
But why not, Kojo?
Please, the
Why
president
not?
is a lawyer. Maybe you and I can be forgiven.
Okay.
You know, our friend has been arrested.
Yes.
And, you know, we are journalists. We
Yes.
come on air. And then we say, whoa, this is my friend. Oh, yeah, as for him, I am very sure he'll be exonerated.
Yes.
Look, by the way, if I do that, I'll be suspended.
Right.
If I do that, I'll be suspended.
But she's innocent until proven guilty. So he says, as far as he's concerned,
he didn't
she's
say
innocent.
that I believe you are innocent until you you will be proven guilty.
Well, that's true.
He said, I believe you will be proven innocent.
You'll be exonerated at the end of the...
That's what the president said. And look, the president is a lawyer.
Yeah.
You see, in the middle of all of this, let's not forget what he spent most of his life doing as a career.
Right.
He's a lawyer. And a darned good one at that. So for him to actually make such a statement, I'm sorry, but there is no excuse to be made that he didn't understand the implication of what he was saying.
Right.
And you see, when people call him a clearing agent, it's not that they are saying he by himself determines somebody's innocence and then the case dies.
Right.
No. But if by your utterances you influence the outcome, then you are clearing the person. We live in a country that we have a constitution that gives our president far more power than the typical tyrant dictator has in his country.
Because if you're guilty, aren't you guilty? If you're innocent, you're innocent. Why would the president's comment either determine whether you're guilty or innocent?
Let me give you an example. Do you remember the cash for seats?
Yes.
Saga.
Yes.
I bet we were all at the presidency during the Meet the Press that happened very soon after Parliament started looking into that matter. When the president said that he believes that investigation will come to nothing.
Right.
At the time, the president had the majority in Parliament. His party had the majority in Parliament.
Yeah.
So please, after you hear the president saying that, what expectation do you have that Parliament can come to any outcome other than what the president said?
Right.
Can Parliament work to make the president a liar? Do you understand? Do you understand how your words matter? By the way, I mean, you are the president. You should not allow certain things to touch you.
Okay.
You don't know how the investigation will turn out.
Right.
Unless you know where that money came from, you should not be saying anything.
Right. Right. I get it. So again and again, the president goofed on that score. Regarding the commentary made about Cecilia Dapaah matter, I mean, looking back, you think you could have done a better job. Anyway, so let me now come to Kafwidi. I don't know whether you have any opinion to express on this Cecilia Dapaah matter and whether it could have been handled. But I have a question though. I mean, why on earth did Cecilia Dapaah take this matter to court when she knows that there was the remotest possibility that this matter was going to come to the public domain?
Well, that's a question I would ask her if I had the opportunity of an interview.
I've been thinking.
Yeah.
Question two.
You know,
Question two.
I've had the opportunity
Okay.
to talk to her.
Oh, personally?
After the issue.
In fact, even before the matter broke out.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, so you knew there was something cooking?
Oh, I knew.
Wow, but your paper decided not to go public with it.
Yeah, I mean.
You went, for good reasons, isn't it?
Yes, in fact, I asked her, how on earth do you want public opinion? I mean, because this case should never, ever happen in court. It can't. Because politically, you'll be doomed forever. And her defense was that, Gordon, if somebody takes your money, you have the right to go to court. So even though I'm also a minister, I also have the right to go to court. And after everything had happened, I had the opportunity to talk to her again. I said, Minister, I told you.
Wow.
For me, it was politically unwise. And when I heard the story, I was shocked because this is a lady, a woman, a lot of people know how prudent she is and very meticulous. Okay? So, $1 million, 1 million Ghana cedis is huge money any day, anywhere in this country. Even for drug dealers, $1 million is money.
Big deal.
So why that happened, it's like a fairy tale to me.
Yeah.
It's like a fairy tale to me. Yeah. I wish that we can.
That's a massive misstep, isn't it?
Come again?
That's a massive misstep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. A massive misstep she can never recover.
Yeah.
Was it the same money that somebody was referencing to as like a funeral donation money in the house?
Yeah, well apparently.
Yeah, I was amused by the justifications that were being made for the presence of this huge amount of money.
Now that you are referring to MC.
You know, people were making all kinds of comments
he
about
first said that one.
Yeah.
And he said, it could be that because she lost the mother and then lost the brother. So, but $1 million, it can't, it doesn't amount.
God, let me ask you this. I mean, you have your ears on the ground much more than all of us. I mean, as far as the two political parties are concerned.
On certain grounds.
Now, how true is this, what I'll call rumor? Because a rumor mill actually has it that even before Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was going to emerge the flag bearer of the party, there were already talks that Cecilia Dapa was actually one of the potential running mates
to Dr. Bawumia.
To Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. But there were some persons who were not comfortable with that suggestion or with that proposal. And so decided to get that story published. And we all know we know the newspaper that published it, the Chronicle, isn't it?
The
Chronicle.
The Chronicle published it after a certain newspaper.
Actually, there was a newspaper that published it before the Chronicle.
Gave a hint.
Okay, so I think Chronicle gave it more visibility.
Yes.
But here's the thing. How true is it that somebody deliberately decided to do this in order to hurt just to hurt her political ambitions?
I'm sure the sea is closer to where we are now. Let us convey this propaganda to the Marines.
Right. It's not true.
It's not true.
There's no iota of truth to this.
It's not true. Because it's a public case. The matter is in court. Any journalist can pick it and publish it.
Yeah.
Any journalist can pick it and publish it.
I get it.
Okay? And if she had not reported the matter to the police, for the matter to end up in court, who could have cooked that issue?
Yeah, I get it. Let me now go to Shamima. Shamima, any thoughts on Cecilia Dapa before you give us your take? Brief thoughts on Cecilia Dapa. If Cecilia Dapa is also your take, that's fine. Then you can proceed.
Well, thank you, Moro, once again. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say something brief on the floods.
Okay.
And some of the lessons we should take away from disaster management, because again, it gave us an example of how unready we are as a country in troubleshooting, potentially disastrous situation, and also responding efficiently and effectively when those disasters, whether man-made or even natural, as was the case of this one, occurs. And one of the challenges I had was with the nature of the response.
Yeah.
Many, and the role the media also played in focusing on just the MEPE areas, also because of the genius of the MP for the area, Sami Ablakwa, and his own mobilizing prowess. You would see that there was a disproportionate coverage on MEPE as a township as against the several other communities that were devastated by the floods. Some of the areas, as we saw later on from the visuals that came when the media now went into those areas, were almost cut off. It also meant that MEPE as a community received disproportionate amount of help. And so my question immediately was, who went in and took control of the situation in terms of the registration of the individuals, disaggregating the data, so that we actually, and then providing the public with information of what was needed. Because people were sending every and anything, and it was mostly going to specific places. But I'm sure that if we had this almost immediately, registrations and disaggregation in terms of the age profile of the people, the health profile of the people, immediately there will be public announcement regarding the most immediate things that were required so that people can respond adequately. So that was one of my observations of the way in which the relief efforts, there didn't seem to be coordination at all with regards to the relief efforts. People were just going and sending private donations. What also helped was the media mobilizing their own relief efforts. So individuals now brought their support to the media houses, and they in turn conveyed these provisions to those specific areas. So we need, there's a reason why, you know, even in organizations, they always insist that you must have a crisis communication strategy.
Right.
So again, as NADMO, I think NADMO needs to do more, because NADMO should officially be the institution that, you know, goes in almost immediately in collaboration with some of these UN institutions, refugee agencies, disaster management, you know, agencies. They've been doing these relief things for such a long time. I think they have a lot of, you know, experience in how to quickly establish the areas, secure the areas, and ensure that there's a coordinated mechanism to addressing the needs of the people. So by way of the MEPE flats, I think that's just what I wanted to add to that.
Great.
To the Cecilia Dapa story, yes, it was a big story. It was a sad story. It was a blow to, you know, I usually don't even want to say it, but yes, it was, it generated a lot of conversations amongst women's platform. And the question was, you see, we say we want women. Do we just want women? Until this episode, we cannot say that Cecilia Dapa had not conducted herself well in public office. She's one of the few female politicians who's had a very long tenure in politics. And if you compared her outputs also to some other colleague of ours, until this episode, and a few others, you know, and a few others in everybody's political career, there will be some missteps. You would say that she had a fairly good public and political life until the unfortunate case of this scenario. Somebody said earlier on, I think, oh, I just forgot whether this would be her political undoing. And I just wanted to say that no crisis or scandal has ever ended anybody's political life. Maybe it's also the forgiving nature of the Ghanaian, because if you truly look at it, there have been scandals upon scandals. People have recovered from their scandals and moved on to still engage in public life. I don't know whether that's good or bad, whether we don't punish enough, but it seems as a country, we are quite lenient, you know, about breaches, especially of our public office holders, especially breaches that affect us directly. And the dissonance in communication between what our leaders tell us and what they do is quite disheartening and really counterproductive. And I'm saying this with regards to just the thought of keeping such huge amounts of money at home. Because again, and that's what raises the genuine and germane questions. If these were genuinely acquired wealth, there ought not to be any problem with keeping them in the banking system, especially at a time where the nation was economically stressed, where we know the volatility of the dollar, and the government was telling citizens to not engage in panic response to the deteriorating value of the cedi, to keep the monies in, to not withdraw monies that they didn't have need of, so we can stabilize the economy. Here we have the clearest evidence yet of, you know, practice what I preach and not what I do. And I think that dealt a huge blow to the confidence that many Ghanaians reposed in our financial system. And it's going to take a long time to recover, also because of the domestic debt exchange and the debt crisis, and, you know, the fact that many people have lost a lot. And for me, the most poignant moment was when I heard a former vice chancellor of a public university come on air and say that he would never again in his life advise his child or his son to ever invest in government bonds. A vice chancellor of a university. That's how, you know, disappointed he became as a result of this erosion of people's life savings through what I would think and say was the reckless actions of those in power who failed to heed advice one, who failed to read the signs one, who ferried all of us on a jolly ride knowing that the destination was, was going to be obvious disaster. And yet, even at the last moment, when the signs were clear, we're told that we're a proud nation by the finance minister and that we're not going to IMF, only to come back and eat, his words. I think that the Cecilia Dapaah story represents something bigger than we are talking about. And it comes to my major issue again about the decay we are witnessing, the democratic decay we are witnessing, the democratic decay we are witnessing on the side of our state institutions, right from the executive to parliament. And we have all those specific big scandals from the presidency to parliament to the judiciary even. And that's where the worry lies, because the judiciary are like our gods on earth. They ought to be the last vanguards in ensuring that impunity doesn't take a threshold. Impunity doesn't take a stronghold in our nation. The UNESCO in its reports have said that in nations where impunity against all manner of persons thrive, they find a link between the response of the judiciary, either by way of unresolved cases, by way of the length of time that matters remain in the court system, and by way of what is viewed as unfair adjudication of cases where persons perceive. We know that, yes, the law is the law, and a lawyer is as good as his brief. And judges will always say that, cases are determined by the arguments that have been brought before them. But sometimes when, there's perceptions, and when the perceptions become more than usual, and we hear voices from within come out and tell us that there may be some subjective, proclivities on the side of some judges in determination of some cases, then it leads to increasing distrust in those institutions, and that becomes a major worry. So I think that we really must look at the decay that is happening right in front of our eyes in many institutions. Nothing seems sacrosanct anymore. Not even the moral, religious, community is sacrosanct anymore. And when a country begins to lose its moral fabric this way, I think that it bodes disaster. And we really need to move back and reflect more deeply and ask citizens, especially this election year, to be up and doing and to become resilient and to become keen watchers of the things that are going wrong, and then to speak out. To speak out, that is the only safeguard we have now, the ability of citizens to mobilize individually, collectively, and to speak out against the ills we are seeing, and to call out wrongdoings, and to we ourselves become better citizens, by imbibing the better values, and also trying as much as possible to do the right things in our little corners. So those are my preliminary long comments about what you have discussed so far. And if it's coming to my own big stories, issues. My big stories for the year, number one is the abysmal manner in which the district level elections were organized, which saw a lower turnout in the history of the elections than before, and poor public education prior to the elections, as well as the late announcement of the date of the elections, which affected a lot of CSOs' activities and mobilization efforts to at least support the EC and the NCC's, efforts to at least educate the public and get them to come out and vote. And for the first time in the history, we had district level elections being postponed in some areas. I think that we didn't really explore the impact and the effects of how the district level elections were organized as a precursor to 2024 elections. We don't want this country to flare up in chaos, and we must all be vigilant. We must also have conversations about the use of this indelible ink. If it portends trouble, please, let's go back to use the indelible ink, because trust in the system is at an all-time low. It will take a little spark, even if there are genuine mistakes. You know, we can't even afford the luxury of genuine mistakes on the side of the Electoral Commission. They must know the burden that they carry, and the way in which the district level elections went and the poor outturn was really not good enough. And the calendar of the election cycle, we all know that this was supposed to happen at this time. So why did we wait till so long to be able to resolve some of the challenges which the EC itself brought upon itself, because the CI that they laid and all of those challenges and the delays it caused in Parliament could all have been, you know, avoided if there was real cooperation and collaboration amongst the agents in agreeing on the way forward. Do you see it? My second issue is how Ghana continues to lose professionals. This year, there were major reports on the name in Nigeria is JAPA, the way in which medical professionals were all japaing to you know, other European and Western states as a result of the poor conditions, you know. So we are training doctors, we are training nurses, and they're all leaving the shores of this country to service other people, when indeed a lot of Ghanaians are without the requisite, you know, medical and professional manpower. We really need to look at this country. Nothing seems to be working at all, and that is such an unfortunate issue. So those are the two issues. If you come back to me, I'd like to explore further with regards to solutions. More.
Right, and I like that. I think what Shamima has done is that she's done, she's actually taken a shot. She's done two stories in one. She's
commenting on the ones we did.
Yes, actually commenting. I'm very. I don't know how she's been able to do that, but Sham, so she's hanging in there, because we'll come back to you to pick your thoughts on some of the issues that have been raised so far. Dr. Jonas Akwapo, let me ask you this question about Cecilia Dapaah, and I'm sure you've had it being asked, and perhaps not from me to you. So let me now do it. Do you think this episode or this saga could potentially hurt the political and electoral fortunes of the NPP, or you think this is a cross that she would solely carry?
Well, I don't think that there's one. I think it would be one of many of the things that has been, you know, cataloged that would be used against the ruling party going into the 2024 election. So I'm sure that those who bring out the governance issues, particularly not just even about corruption, but the fight against corruption, will cite a number of examples and use this as one of the examples in their narrative when they are talking, you know, about this governance issue of corruption and the fight against corruption. But for me, the biggest thing that the case illustrates, and I always go back to something that Professor Kwesi Prempeh wrote way back in 2005, and I've kept a copy of that piece because I think it gives us a framework that we tend to miss something important about. During the Hotel Kufuor, you know, saga, he wrote a piece for the CDD's Democracy newsletter where he said, we tend to lawyer up. We tend to take a very strict legal view of some of these governance crises when they come up. But what we forget is to also look at the appearance issues and how some of this plays out in the court of public opinion, because that is where a government also loses some of its credibility. So I borrowed from that piece, and I've been using this framework where I call the legal test versus the appearance test. Most of the time, when issues of conflict of interest or corruption issues come up, we always subject it to a strict legal test, right? So when you talk about conflict of interest, you are likely to hear things like, oh, well, they applied, or they submitted a bid. and it was approved. So they sort of checked all the legal and administrative steps that they have to go through. But the thing that we tend to overlook is how it looks, how it appears. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person may be guilty or not guilty, but we tend not to pay attention to how things appear, right, in terms of certain public conduct. And that, for me, is where it ends up hurting governments and our public officials. And I think if we become a little more sensitive and cognizant of not lowering up on everything, but also looking at how some of these things may look. Because once you start losing credibility in the public space, it affects everything that a government does, believe it or not. Maybe we may not really see it that way, but when you start losing some of these political credibilities, even when you announce a good public policy, everyone looks at it through the lens of, well, I can't even believe you. Well, is it really true? Oh, you're just doing this because of X. And I think that is one of the things that I'm hoping that as time goes on, government and our public officials will become very, very sensitive about, which is also trying to make sure that they don't only pass the legal test on crisis matters, but they can also pass the appearance test too.
Okay. All right, Doc, thank you. Thank you very much. Like I said, hang in there. We'll come back to you because there's some issues that are going to come up, very political in nature, and I'll be picking your thoughts on that as well. Now, let me just say that if you want to contribute to this program, like through expression of your thoughts or your viewpoint, it's 0249 155 646. 0249 155 646. That's the WhatsApp line for those of you who would want to, have your say on the issues under discussion. Now, let me say that, let me read this one here because this one from Michael. He says, "Good morning, great discussions, Mr. Morrow. If I'm asked to describe the happenings under this government in 2023 in particular, in a movie titled, my title would be The Unprecedented Grand Theft of Our Collective Future. However, there is hope. But whilst waiting for the hope, kindly permit me to use this opportunity to invite you, your panelists, Metro TV, and your entire listenership to our all-exciting festival, Dukefest, in the heart of my beloved town, Tema Newtown, in the Tema constituency. Let's meet for some good fun tomorrow." That's coming from Michael Abbey. And he says, "I've been watching this from the beginning." Thank you very much, Michael, for that message. And this one here says, "Great discussions. Tell Kojo Yangsing he's done a fantastic job. Godwin, it's not Godwin, it's Godding. Yeah. So Godwin, tell him he's done a yeoman's job. And Kafuide, fantastic. And all your panel. But what I want to say is that last year was bad for the MPP. This year must better be good because they're losing my trust, even though I'm an autopilot MPP sympathizer."
Confession,
He's giving, it's almost as if every minute that passes, they're losing a bit of the credits. Yeah.
It's an autopilot one?
Yeah, it's an autopilot sympathizer.
Wow.
It's autopilot.
No.
Yeah.
But the
fresh honesty, yeah?
Let me tell you.
We have more than 70% of our voter population being autopilot.
Oh, of course. I mean, these are hardliners.
They would vote for this.
It doesn't matter what happens, they'll vote for their parties.
They like to pretend.
But they are.
Say, this is based on analysis.
But they are autopilot.
He is admitting.
But he said they've got to be careful, though.
I think it's a very good feedback that the MPP might
you see, But
this one leads
he means well. It leads
to apathy.
Because the autopilot guy might not go out.
He
may just stay at home.
Right. That's it. Then you lose a vote.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway. Godwin, what's your big story before I come to Dr. John Osakwa?
Shami must say something about the indelible ink.
Indelible ink, okay.
Is our house now so fortified that we can gift our dog called Rambo to somebody?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
He I was going to say something, but I
preach.
won't say.
No, I don't.
This would work in sermons, you know. You get people to
Do you understand? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We are not there yet.
So how so fortified that
we can gift our dog called Rambo. Because you see, when your dog is called Rambo, even when it is dead, years after it's dead,
the legend lives on.
Yes.
Thank you. People are still scared.
Yes. People want to be sure that is it true that Rambo is dead?
Right.
So
right.
they will not dare.
Yeah, that's how powerful.
So our Rambo in the election is indelible ink.
For real.
Right.
For real. For now, for me, we should maintain it.
Yeah.
So that we don't. I mean, there's no need.
Yeah.
Because the EC has not proven enough to us that our machines are so fortified that the list of something can trigger for us to know that somebody has gone to vote twice somewhere.
Right.
So I think it's needed.
You should shelve it. It's not a good idea. It's a bad idea.
I've got two stories.
Okay.
One, let's say national, and then one political.
Yeah.
The national is about the so-called fight against Galamsey.
Galamsey, okay.
And then the second one is the election of Dr. Bawumia as the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party.
Particularly so being a Muslim and of the northern extraction. Yeah.
Yes. The so-called fight against Galamsey. I call it so-called. Initially, I didn't call it so-called, but now I do. Because it seems to me there wasn't even any fight.
Right. We've been pretending all the while.
Yes. And you see this, a war waged by the president. He himself said he had put his presidency on the line.
True.
And English master is here.
If
you say someone has put his or her position on the line, either the person loses reputation or he loses money.
Yeah.
The person has to lose something automatically if the person fails to achieve that object.
Okay.
The person has to.
Yeah.
For the President Kufuor, he's not going to lose his presidency. But I bet you he has lost some level of reputation.
Right.
He has lost it unless somebody don't want to tell him. And I am tempted to believe that some people don't tell him the truth.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. When this Professor Frimpong Boateng issue came, for me, what Professor Frimpong Boateng wrote, I saw a lot of them as hearsay, fabrications, and lies. One example, I was fortunate to be part of that Dodowa event that he spoke about in the write-up.
Okay.
I was there. It was a program organized by Bank of Ghana. Financial literacy. I was there myself.
So it has nothing to do with Kojo Oppong Nkrumah?
It has nothing to do with Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah was invited by GJ.
Okay.
I was the last person to have seen Kojo Oppong Nkrumah off into his car. Nobody discussed anything about Galamsey. But Prof wrote in his write-up that a journalist friend of his told him that his friend also told him third level of reported speeches. Then Prof says somebody was doing Galamsey in the residence of President Kufuor at Chebi. Said Jesus Christ. And the president or the presidency didn't show any sign of worry that somebody had made that allegation against the president.
So, but we saw how journalists were quickly
They
arranged.
went there. No, they were not arranged. I can mention their names.
Oh no, I thought it was somebody from the information ministry.
No.
There was nobody
They
from
were
the
not arranged. They themselves on their own volition decided to go there. Yes.
Okay, I thought it was actually arranged.
It was arranged.
I thought it was arranged.
Our journalist
was had a call from
to go.
Exactly. I thought it was
Probably
arranged.
after the first group had
It may
gone.
not have been officially arranged, but it was arranged.
So if
Which
the
is
president
fine.
has been accused,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
the president didn't even see the need to fight that accusation forcefully.
Yeah.
I was worried,
Very disappointed.
very disappointed. The fight against Galamsey is a blot on our conscience as a people. 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to be in the helicopter, chopper. And I said, wow, look at what we have done to Madagascar, Amagana, the earth. Very devastation. But look, what have we done? 2 days ago, I was watching Joy News. Some people had entered Forest Reserve. Fresh one, oh. This one supposed to tear rubber. So where is the fight? If we cannot win this war, then what can we win?
Yeah.
And this is something that we are going to pay dearly for it. Not in decades time. We've started paying. Go to Ghana Water Company. They will tell you, it's there. So why can't we win? It is because of official complicity.
Right. Okay.
It is because of official complicity. Political figures are involved. Military people are involved. Security agents people are involved. I spoke to a certain MC.
Yeah.
And they said on 2 or 3 occasions that he had sought the assistance of the district police commander to go on a swoop, unannounced. Anytime that they go to the scene, all the Galamseyers had fled. There was nobody on site. Yeah. But when he called somebody else from a different district, and they managed to arrest people there, it meant that the district commander himself was complicit.
Yeah. Gordon, are you saying that it's a hopeless situation?
It should not be a hopeless situation.
Our quest to fight Galamsey.
No, you see, when they started, 8 months into the so-called fight or war, whatever, for me, government was winning or the country was winning.
Yeah.
But what happened? Let me tell you what happened. When they started the war, about 70% of people who were into this illegal mining were members of the NDC.
Right.
And so, people in officialdom found it so easy to sack them from site.
And take.
And then, a lot of people in the NPP also took over.
Okay.
So now, when you go and meet your party, this thing, you go and meet your party, that man, this and that. That's why we are unable to deal with it.
So the
president has to redeem himself.
Right. So as you said, that the politicization of the war we're fighting or we're waging against Galamsey is what is making it difficult for us.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the president has to redeem himself.
Right.
It's not too late for him to do that.
Okay. So
it can take us even just 3 months. Can't we just sack everybody from site?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. But you believe this would feature quite prominently in 2024?
It did in 2020.
I'm saying, would it feature in 2024?
I'm not really sure about 2024, but I'm very sure.
Would the fight continue? That's the point I'm making.
The fight.
Yeah,
it has to
continue. Okay, because we spent huge amounts of scarce resources in this, and we're still not making any headway.
We can't stop it.
Yeah, we can't.
We've spent so much to buy drones.
Yeah.
A lot of but
we're still not making any headway. That's fine. So let's go to the second topic.
My second topic has to do with
the emergence of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Yes.
The election of.
No, I mean, I'm not going to look at the peripherals.
Okay.
The peripherals relative to the resignation of Alan Kojo Kyerematen and other people.
Okay.
No. I want to focus on the election of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Why does that excite you?
It's so exciting because for me, it was the best of opportunities for the MPP to extricate
share itself off.
Yes.
That can't tag.
That can't tag. I mean, whether you like it or not, it was a tag so ingrained and difficult for the MPP to shed.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity for the MPP, an opportunity which will not come back in the next 50 years. That's my projection.
Okay.
So, if MP had missed that opportunity, they would have suffered. And it wasn't just this is a man who ticks all the political boxes.
Right.
Is it about competence? He takes it. Is it about loyalty? He takes it. Is it about his capacity? He takes it. Is it about his demeanor? He takes it. Okay? Is it about dedication to the party? He takes it.
Right.
Is he a political minnow now? No. Because he came to the political scene in 2007. We are in 2023, now 2024. How can you tell me that somebody who came to the political scene 15 years ago is still a political minnow? You can't say that. Yeah, the man has matured.
Right.
For me, where he comes from, in terms of the pecking order for me, comes to about 5 or so. I keep on telling people that if you say Dr. Bawumia is a Muslim and that kind of thing, for me, you are even debasing him because he goes beyond his religion.
Okay.
For me, it's about his competence. where he comes maybe about third or so.
Okay.
But in terms of voting,
Right.
nobody knows why people vote.
Right.
Okay? People who vote, even the manifestos, how many people read the manifestos?
Yeah.
But they look at the person first. And for me, the MPP as a party has become unpopular.
Right.
That is a fact.
Right.
The government has become unpopular. But they are fortunate that the candidature of the person, Dr. Bawumia himself, is able to wipe off some form of unpopularity. And for me, the party is going to fight from behind.
Right.
But I think Dr. Bawumia, as the leader of the party now, has a lot to do.
I need to make some clarity on this. But the MPP's constitution, that's the when the party is in power.
Yes.
Does the flag bearer the lead of the party, or is the president who's the leader of the party?
No, so the moment a flag bearer is elected,
okay, he becomes the leader of the party.
He becomes the leader.
Okay.
And so on that Saturday at Accra Sports Stadium, there was that small ceremony, and then the president handed over
the leadership of the party.
To Dr.
It was very symbolic.
Yes, that's why he said, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Flag Bearer, Mr. Leader. So he is not the leader of the party.
Let me. That's great. I'll come back to you on the issue of running mate, because that's a big issue, and even that of John Dramani Mahama, because that's going to come up this year. This year is actually the year, and we're expecting to see loads of things, come up as far as the political landscape is concerned. Kafui, are you one of those who's excited about this reason that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's emergence on the political landscape, or let's say his election as the leader of the party, the flag bearer of the MPP, actually then takes off entirely the perception that people have about the MPP? There's an Akan party, and that for the first time, minority tribes within the MPP would now say they actually have a stake, they have a future in the MPP. Voltarians, Gans, it can go on and on and on and on. Is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's election the beginning of that, change of mindset as far as the MPP is concerned? Do you agree with those who think that? Or you think the MPP has a lot of work to do in order to change that kind of mindset?
I don't think it's that significant. I mean, when the NPP did not have a non-Akan presidential candidate, it was great news for the NDC, because they could always punch holes and say, well, you guys say you are representative, but where are the other people? But so now that has been taken away. And I've been looking at the data from Musa Dankwa's research.
Global Info Analytics.
Yes, about what Ghanaians look out for. And ethnicity and religion are not in the top.
It's down the
three.
pecking order.
It's down the pecking order. They're looking for somebody who they think can do the work.
I see.
So competence is a big deal.
Right.
I'm not surprised because in 2016, all we heard was incompetent Mahama. And I know that really sunk in and really damaged the NDC.
Right.
So because he's a fine guy, but he's incompetent.
Right.
That was what the narrative was. That was what the messaging was. So unless people just want to stretch this whole religious and ethnic thing, I don't think it's a big deal.
Right.
People want somebody who can do the work and do it well.
I see.
Basically. And I want to tie Galamsey to the election. Because I don't see it as a big deal in anybody's campaign messaging.
Oh, is that?
This is River Pra.
What? For a minute I was going to say your Tankwabia, Bado.
Yes. I fetched this.
No, but it didn't occur to you that when this was River Pra.
I fetched this from River Pra, September 2022, and I went back.
It is the same.
No, it's darker.
It's darker.
Yes.
Wow. Than what we're seeing.
Yes. So this is children being born with legs sprouting out of their necks.
Yes.
This is mercury poisoning. This is the cost of Ghana Water Company purification going up because they have to buy more chemicals to treat this water for it to be drinkable for us.
Yes.
So this is the cost of what is happening when people go into forest reserves and rivers, and they dig up the ground and dig into the water and try and get gold. And see, for me, the way we are fighting Galamsey, there's a picture. I know you all have seen this picture because last year there was a video going around about 2 minutes of of two police officers kneeling down and begging for their very lives. From, I think they were basically ambushed by some Galamsey guys.
Yes.
And they were begging for their lives. So yeah, so for me that's the image. It's not Aisha Wang going to prison for 4.5 years. It's not all the fine words about the fight against Galamsey. This is the water that. And by the way, I spoke to the people in that area. I said, what water do you drink? They said, it'll be the water that.
Whoa.
They drink this,
Whoa.
they cook with this, they take their bath with this. This is the water. So this is the fight against Galamsey.
Wow.
And I have, so this is on my desk at GTV.
Right.
And sometimes the communicators come in and say, but you need to why if you put this bottle away?
It's your companion.
No, it's part of my set.
Yes.
It's part of my
It's part of a
set.
set, yeah.
So while we are thinking about Galamsey and all the fine words,
Yes.
let's remember that the water some
Yeah.
people are drinking is this color.
Wow.
It is this color.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I
It just
can
tells you that the is it turbidity levels?
Yes,
That's what I'm
turbidity.
looking for.
Yeah.
The turbidity is still very high.
No,
isn't it?
it's
Very
extremely high.
Let me. That's fantastic. Kojo, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, nobody would have thought this possible as far back as in 2008 that Dr. Mahmoud Bamia would lead the New Patriotic Party in 2024, but it's happened. Of course, there are some who say in 2012 the signs were beginning to emerge, but still a bit doubtful because there's the Alan thing, and the Alan thing was almost as if it was actually the heir apparent after Nana Akufo-Addo because of history. And then it turns out that he chickened out at some point. And Dr. Mahmoud Bamia is not the leader of the party. I mean, did you ever foresee this happening? Some 10 years ago?
That's a good one. Let me see if I can also, in a very short time.
Okay, sure.
Much shorter. Actually touch on all of these
Sure.
issues
That's fine.
because
That's
they're
fine.
connected, if you
That's
ask
fine.
me.
That's fine.
To the whole candidacy.
Absolutely. It's for leadership, isn't it?
The election. I might even chip in a little bit of Alan there because
Yes,
you
fine.
mentioned him.
Great.
So I have always thought that Alan Chemantin's popularity in the NPP has been over-romanticized. Yeah. It's been exaggerated and over-romanticized. The numbers have always been showing that he's not that popular.
Okay.
But for some reason, it seemed as if, that's what we do here. There is a queue, and he's in the queue.
Yeah.
He's been in the queue,
He's next in
so
line.
he's next. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, apart from that first performance where he pushed things to a runoff, after which he then, graciously conceded. I mean, after that, the things that should have happened to keep his popularity up did not happen.
Exactly.
If you think about, there's a parallel. The election petition when Akufo-Addo and his team, went to court and lost. There was a certain magnanimity in the president's acceptance of the case, the outcome of the case. And then following that, every activity of his was geared towards nation building. He put himself in that position of a statesman. That helped. So by the time he was up for the next election, it had yielded dividends for him. Alan didn't do that. I think he just went quiet. So by the time he put himself up again, it was Alan who?
Yeah.
And so then his results dropped from 30-something to about 11%.
Right.
And then it just kept falling and falling. And by the time he left the party, he had come third in a superdelegates election.
Elections.
He came third. If he was as popular as he was, and like he thinks, it was the system candidate who somehow threw money into the system and just made everybody vote for him. If he was right about that, he would have come second.
Right.
But someone else.
And he will have won in 2007.
Thank you.
Because then he was a system candidate.
Precisely.
And he was called Alan Cash.
He's denied that. He said he wasn't a system candidate.
Well,
in all the interviews.
either way.
Or saying it true.
Either way. Either way. If he was
right.
If he was right, that actually the party wants him.
Yeah.
But it was some shenanigans and, that made him lose.
Yeah.
He would have come second.
Okay.
But someone else beat him too.
Right.
So he's just not as popular as he thinks in the NPP.
Okay.
Now that he's started his own thing, and we've
The
seen a
yellow
couple of
movement.
pictures of these, a street full of people in yellow T-shirts,
Yes.
and again, he's falling into that sense of, false security that these people came out for me. They came out for the T-shirts.
Okay.
This is politics. I mean, have we just suddenly forgotten this is Ghana? Don't we see this all the time? So that's Alan. That's Alan.
Right. Good.
But it is connected to the NPP's choice of Dr. Bawumia.
Yeah.
He didn't win it easily.
Okay.
I don't think anyone can argue that this was a walk in the park. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. He got a convincing majority, 60-something percent.
67%.
But it wasn't easily won.
Right.
Because the truth is that there were all of those perceptions in the party. They were there. There were perceptions, but they were there. I think the party should be congratulated for summarily overcoming those perceptions.
Right.
But like Kafui says, that's not the winner for them. That's not what wins the election for you. The fact that you were able to choose someone from a minority group.
And not a can.
Yeah. That doesn't win it for you. They should be congratulated because for their own tradition, they have allowed their history to evolve in a positive direction. That's good.
Okay.
Congratulations to them for that.
Right.
But this doesn't win.
Okay.
Can they win? At this point, with the level of unpopularity that the party is facing, the challenge of winning in 2024 is big. I wouldn't rule them out.
Right.
I wouldn't rule them out because unfortunately, the NDC doesn't tend to historically perform well in opposition.
Right.
I think we've seen.
Yeah.
The amount of balls they drop, how they allow big issues to flutter off into the distance without grabbing them and making them chappier.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They are just not good at that. They have a few bright sparks among them.
Yeah.
Some of them communicate very well. The Sami Jemfis and the
Felix Ofusukwaches.
Fusukwaches.
Yeah,
and some of them are very good communicators. They are flag bearer himself. He knows how to, give a speech.
Yeah.
But it's not enough.
Yeah.
They don't work as a machinery to overthrow the government. When I say overthrow, I mean...
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, of course.
They don't. They don't do that well.
The NPP does a better job at that.
Yes. You see, so they could still end up losing.
Yeah.
Okay? But what's the Bawumia factor here? The Bawumia factor, it hasn't started yet.
Okay.
Because he has the job of, first of all, demonstrating that he is something different from what people are upset with.
Right.
In the party.
Because for now, he's seen...
At the moment, there is yet to be anything to clearly break him apart.
To decouple, yeah,
yes.
Right. From the establishment.
That is yet to happen.
Okay.
There are a couple of things. One thing in mind I'm going to mention and then I can move on. I think that this thing is about as big a liability as it is an asset to him.
Right.
And it's the fact that for a long time, until he became flag bearer, he was not speaking about the economy.
Right.
Now, nobody understood that. I mean, this is why you were sold to us as the running mate.
Yeah.
Economic whiz kid. You gave these lectures that I can sometimes quote verbatim without even reading.
Right.
Verbatim. This is who you were. Right? This is why people voted for that ticket. Because as opposed to incompetent Mahama, you were competent Bawumia. And then you become vice president and we don't hear you on the economy.
He evolved.
Sorry? He evolved. Okay.
Evolution.
And by the way, he actually gave lectures as vice president.
Yes, he did.
But they were just not about the economy per se.
Yeah, no, it was to defend the record of the government at the
well,
time.
yes, and then he would throw in a bit of digitalization, and then there would be a bit of a, but he somehow managed to avoid those basic principles that he used to teach us. Right?
Right.
Now, I say it's a liability because it has made people question, I mean, so were you lying to us when you were in opposition?
Right.
But it's also an asset. Because for me, it is the strongest proof that what this government was doing economically, he didn't agree with it.
Right.
If he agreed with it, he would have said something about it. But you can tell that this is somebody who has decided that, well, I mean, we went to cabinet and we voted, and cabinet decided to go this way. I don't agree, but I'm a member of the government.
Right.
So I can't oppose it, but I'm not going to go and talk about it. So for him, if he's going to decouple...
That's a very tight rope, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
tight rope.
Well, so if he's going to decouple, that is his path to doing it.
Yes.
Now, why are people disaffected with that? And this is where I'll end. Why are people disaffected with this government? I actually think it's because in the same way that they touted Mahama as incompetent, this government is touted as a failure. I'm not going to go into which is worse.
I get it.
Being incompetent or being a failure.
Yeah.
But this government is a failure of a government. And Galamsey is the strongest evidence of that.
I get it. Dr. John Osekwapo, I'd come to you and then Shamima would possibly end it for us. But Doc, there are already calls for... Hello, are you there with us, sir?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I've already heard some people say, why wouldn't the president just, hand over the baton to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia for him to run the show? Because it appears that things are not working, well. And that's the first one. And the second one would be, I don't know how at this point, even if Bawumia is not made, even if the president doesn't hand over the baton to Bawumia, should he hand over the baton to him behind the scenes so that he runs the show, even though we have a certain president, but really and truly, Bawumia is the one in the thick of affairs? How do you think they can manage these, the state of affairs before the 2024 elections? Before you give us your take.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think he should hand over to Dr. Bawumia. He has a term of office. The term of office would end in a year. I think he should serve out his term. I don't know the grounds upon which he would, quote unquote, resign and say, my vice president is now taking over, etc., etc. But informally, behind the scenes, yes, there are things that he can do to help prop up the candidacy, which means that maybe if there are some key events, some major, it's the last year of his presidency, but let's say there are some major policy announcements that would come up, some government initiatives that may come up, he could allow the vice president to be the face of that. But I think, just as Kojo said, and I've also said this repeatedly in other platforms, which is Dr. Bawumia's challenge, I think, is more than what the president allows him to do, quote unquote, allows him to do to prop him up over the next year. I think one of his biggest challenges would definitely be how he tries to reconcile the arguments of 2016 and the case made against the John Mahama administration and the economic pinch points that Ghanaians have come to feel, right? How does he reconcile, that 2016 narrative with the economic realities over the last 7 years and the extent to which Ghanaian voters embrace or do not embrace that narrative? How he does that, I think, would be one of the key things that may make him not as vulnerable to the current political winds as it stands now. So for me, I think that's the biggest challenge that he faces. And he would also have to do that in a way that doesn't come off as he's also trying to, quote unquote, throw his party or an administration that he's part of, under the bus. There would have to be some admission that there's been some challenges, but how you do that without seeming to signal that it's, quote unquote, somebody else's fault, and that if I were in charge, it would have been different, is something you have to politically do very, very carefully. So for me, I think how he frames the narrative of his campaign is a much bigger challenge than what the, quote unquote, president lets him do over the next year or not.
Okay, sure. Sham, please come in. Hello, Sham.
Maro.
Yes, please come in. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, his emergence as the leader of the NPP, did you ever foresee this happening? And what do you think things are likely to pan out in 2024? What are you expecting to hear from him? Because, as Kojo said, you know, the vice president has stopped talking about, you know, the economy. He's been talking about digitalization. What's happening?
Well, thank you. Quickly on the Alan thing, I think that I was a bit surprised that he left the party, but I understand that for him, this is his really last attempt to also live up a lifelong dream of, you know, ever contesting the presidency or being on the presidential ballot. Whether his butterfly movement will be taken through to the end, I think only time will tell. And whether he's mobilizing just so he can throw sand in the gari of the MPP and Bawumia camp, also time will tell. Whether he's mobilized the butterfly movement to become a negotiating piece for something in the event that the MPP is able to break the 8, also time will tell. So, but it really was an episode that exposed how, you know, disquietant a lot of MPP members had become with the way the party had been organized and the things that were happening. I mean, we have colleagues, we have, you know, acquaintances, we hear comments that come up. I think that the MPP has moved away from its ethos. You know, if you hear from individuals who are maybe neutrals, who openly say that they did vote for the MPP in the last 2 elections and how they are mightily disappointed now at the outcome or the performance of the administration, you know that, number one, Dr. Bawumia's major challenge is the vehicle on which he has been part of. The vehicle MPP in itself is quite rickety now going into this 2024, also because the 8-year cycle has caught up with them. And so even if you wanted to have a good enough chance of breaking the 8, it means you need to justify how you've used the first 8, isn't it? And you have to make a strong case, not by your mouth, but by your deeds, not by your words. And from the deeds that we have seen, especially last year, where pensioners, the first time in this country, pensioners who had invested their life savings in government bonds and were dependent wholly on the yields from these bonds to buy their medications, had to picket in front of the finance ministry and beg that they be excluded from this, you know, domestic debt exchange program. And God knows what some have gone through and are still going through. So the vehicle NPP is going into an election in a very weakened state than 8 years ago. Now, Dr. Bawumia has been he's been vice president, very visible vice president of this administration. And we have already seen the media play back. You see, words cannot be eroded. And otherwise, you will then come across as not being a person of value, because the diagnosis you made of a problem, the reasons you gave for the NDC going to the IMF, being excessive borrowing, mismanagement of public resources, and what have you. You never gave concessions to the NDC that they may also have faced certain, you know, challenges. You never, it all boiled down to incompetence in the management of the economy. And here we are. You have arguably borrowed more than every government in the history of this nation. And the same reasons you gave in the past for criticizing President John Dramani Mahama, former President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC, for not using the resources well and tangibly, you're faced with having to make a case for that. So, and when you hear people like Kennedy Ejepong also come from within the kitchen and tell us what is truly happening in the kitchen, and Kennedy Ejepong, who became second in this contest, telling us about the thievery, it's his words, the thievery that is happening in this government, it will be very difficult, a Herculean task for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to wash himself off the cloak of the party that he has been part of, or the government that he has been part of over the past 8 years. The other issue about the Muslim vote, I said in another platform that it is not a done deal. and that we should not think that the Muslim vote can be easily converted. The Muslim vote is actually quite sophisticated. And I've said in the history, even if you looked at the partings for the past, since 1992, Muslims have voted anyway. Whether there was a Muslim on the ticket or not, Muslims have always voted. And I think that we must know the dynamics of the Muslim vote and even know the numbers of the Muslim vote. So even if Dr. Bawumia got all Muslim votes, it will not be enough to secure him a win. Okay, he himself, and if you took the northern regions in particular, and you disaggregated the statistics in the northern regions to find out the numbers of Muslim votes, the results would astound you sometimes, okay? Because the northern regions are not necessarily all Muslims, as we know. In fact, if you look at Upper East region, there will be more Christians in Upper East region than there will be Muslims, okay? Same with the Upper West. Perhaps Dabong is which region might have the most numbers. So the Muslim issue is just nice. And I always say that as an advocate for inclusion and representation, he has made the history. But I think that Moses freed the Israelites, but he didn't take them to the promised land, isn't it? I think it's Joshua who took them to the promised land. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so at the point I'm just trying to make that sometimes we will make history, but we will not be the history makers in terms of the ultimate for the period. And there are so many things stuck against Dr. Bawumia that not a Muslim card is what would serve him well. I think there's a greater challenge in convincing the Christian community to be open to the idea generally of a Muslim president, because we have heard some Christian leaders berate the idea of a Muslim. And I don't want to say this in public, but we know it. This is our country. We must confront some of the sentiment that exists in our country. Some Christian leaders are not keen at all to the idea of having a Muslim lead this country, unfortunate as it is. And I'm speaking as a Muslim woman who has sons and daughters and who has loved this country all of my life, who would wish that someday my children should be able to sit back and aspire to lead this country or to lead any aspect of this country. Right. And that is the country, the Ghana that I want to live in, a Ghana of peaceful, respectful coexistence. So there's a lot of T's and I's to be dotted. And it's a contest of the sons of the savannah.
Yep.
John Dramani Mahmoud Bawumia, and of course the other candidates that will emerge into the fray. We wish all of them the best.
Okay. Now,
Shamima, the Ghanaian and the electorate.
Great. I'll come back to you and Dr. John Osai Kwapon, of course, and our colleagues here to give us their take on the issue of running mate, because that's going to come up very strongly in 2024. Already we're hearing things in the NDC, we're hearing things in the MPP. I'll come back to you to ask you what you think that whether, for instance, in the case of the NDC, John Dramani must just go with Professor Jane, or he must take a step back and listen to the contrary views and opinions that have been expressed. In the case of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, must it necessarily be Ashanti region? If he has a fantastic, fine gentleman who would be loved by a majority of Ghanaians from some other region, should he consider it? So I'll come back to you on that, to the two of you on that. I'll take a short break. I'll be back. Fortunately, we've been given 10 more minutes today to wrap up. So we'll take a short break. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is Inside Pages, extended version, just 10 minutes. Programs manager, thank you very much, Nat, for giving us 10 more minutes for us to wrap up well, because he doesn't want us to crash land. I understand that. Thank you so very much. But let's now proceed and look at running mate, because that's going to come up very strongly in 2024. Who's going to go with John, or who partners John Dramani Mahama, and who partners Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and who partners Alan Kojo Kyerematen. I'll start with Dr. John Osai Kwapon. Doc, what's your take on this? I mean, should John Mahama maintain or keep Professor Jane, because there are contrary opinions that have been expressed about the Jane factor. That this is an entirely different elections, number one. Two, traditionally the NDC has never maintained a running mate. Typically what happens is the NDC changes a running mate every election. And so the tradition should stay. And some say, well, the tradition should not stay and that she should be kept. She should be maintained. There are those who say if the NPP's choice of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, which is to take the fight to the NDC in the northern part of Ghana, why wouldn't the NDC look for an Ashanti so they can take the fight to the NPP in the Ashanti region in order to dwarf or to reduce or to whittle down the NDC's, the NPP's, strength in the Ashanti region? I don't know where you stand on this. I'll come to you, Shamima, as well on this matter. Doc, just a brief one, quickly. What do you think?
Well, I mean, traditionally, the parties have also tried to balance the tickets. Right. We've always seen this north-south balance. So on the side of the NDC, then I expect that they would, or at least in my mind, I'm thinking they would still want to maintain that tradition of a north-south balance. I personally would like that he still keeps Prof as his running mate. Yes, I know that Prof was not probably either the most active or the well-known in the NDC circles when she was picked in 2020. And then the timing of her picking, I suspect, meant that she had a lot of work to do to get to know, the party throughout the country, et cetera, et cetera. But 4 years have passed to build even a much stronger working relationship with her, to get to know the party throughout the country, et cetera, et cetera. And then there was a case that was made for the choice of her as running mate in 2020, right? Speaking to issues about, her integrity, opening up the political spaces for greater female participation in our politics, and which other intentional way to do that, but to have, at one of the highest political levels, the potential of a female vice president from one of our main political parties. If you drop her, I'm just wondering what case you would make that you would have to go back and undo the case that was made, in 2020. For me, that would be my biggest political worry for dropping her. But I still think that there's still a good case for that. I mean, we've been talking about women in our political spaces, and if the and one of the ways you can do that is being very intentional, which is why, for me, picking her in 2020 and keeping her in 2024, for me, is a positive thing in that direction.
Okay.
But like you also said, if you also want to take the fight to the MPP, in the north, does it then help if you have a different running mate? Look, at the end of the day, also, people vote for the person on the top of the ticket.
I see.
Right? Real quick, the only research that has looked at the role of the vice president in the decision of the voter was done by Professor Owusu Mensah in 2016, where he asked in 5 different regions, he asked, where, does the role of the VP or running mate influence your decision? And the result is very inconclusive. In 3 regions, it didn't make a difference. In 1 region, it did. And in another, it was sort of split. And interestingly, one of the regions in which the respondents to the survey said it doesn't matter was the central region, right? Which means that it's that person at the top of the ticket is ultimately what really matters to the voter. That does not mean to say that a running mate can also not help, a party or a candidate get over the finishing line. But I would, if I were former President John Mahama, I would really keep her.
Okay, great. Kojo, whilst you're talking, Kojo was just nodding. It's a good, especially the part where you said, when you drop her, what will people say? Kojo, you drop Professor Jane, what will people say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have to issue a disclaimer that
Prof Nana Jino has known me since I was wearing diapers.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you can imagine how happy I was when
she was
announced
chosen,
that she was going to be the running mate. I thought that the logic was sound. To pick a woman, to pick somebody who will combat this whole NDC is not intellectual, perception.
Yeah.
And also somebody from the central region, which is a very important swing region. So I got the theory. And I was happy. That was, my Auntie Jane. So, it was good news for me. But I think now the decision John Mahama has to make, or the NDC has to make in choosing a running mate, that decision has to start everything from scratch.
Okay.
So first of all, your running mate has to bring in votes. It's important. You are trying to win an election.
Okay.
Secondly, it has to be someone that the president can work with. At least for that, I think Prof. Jane ticks that box.
Right.
The president has, run with her once.
Yeah.
So
Comfortable
I have no doubt that they worked together well. But then you have to ask yourself, when they ran in 2020, what was the outcome? Did Prof. Jane increase the women votes? Did Prof. Jane increase the votes in, the intellectual constituencies, the universities?
Yeah.
Did Prof. Jane increase the votes in the central region?
Right.
You have to ask those questions. And if the answers are yes, then maybe you have a winner.
Okay.
So then you keep her.
Right.
But if
it's
no, don't worry about who you will offend. The only person you will offend is Prof. Jane.
I see. Shamima, can you do this in a minute? Because we've actually run out. Oh, apparently we've run out. Okay, sorry. Okay. So I'm told that we can't go beyond this. So let me thank my very good friends. Unfortunately, they couldn't give their take on the running mate issue. I want to sincerely apologize for that. Kafui and also Gordon Asaribidiako, and also Kujo Yangsi, thank you very much for joining us. Shamima Muslim, also thank you very much. I wanted you to also have a take, but unfortunately we've run out of time. And also Dr. John Osakwapon, thank you very much for your time. This is the first edition for 2024 Inside Pages. Bigger, better things coming up, in the subsequent weeks. My name is Aldo Moro. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year once again, and happy birthday to Dr. Randy Abe. He's on the 5th floor. He's having fun on the 5th floor. He's the MD for Ignite Media Group. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.